But actually, clinical trials can be observational, like the Parkinson's progression marker study, where they're just watching you in your disease course. They can be interventional, but with exercise, for example. So you're, running on a stationary treadmill for 30 minutes every day and comparing how that affects your symptoms to somebody who's not running. So there are definitely different ways to participate in research, and I would encourage you, if it's something that you're interested in, whether you have Parkinson's or not, to visit our Fox Trial Finder website, where there's more than 75,000 people already signed up and 800 studies that are actively looking for participants like you, whether you have Parkinson's or you don't. And then finally, Fox Insight is our virtual research hub. So I always liken this to participating in a clinical trial on your couch, because you're part of a study. The Fox Insight study is listed on Fox Trial Finder, but it's really just surveys that you fill out about your disease, information about the trends that you're experiencing. We are aggregating data from our mobile technologies through this platform. So some people on Fox Insight have wearable smartwatches that are funneling data in about their motor symptoms and their sleep behaviors. So all this to say that whatever your appetite may be for participating in research, if it's something that you're interested in, you can probably find a trial that is relevant to you through one of these resources. And again, the websites are here, and we have pamphlets outside if you'd like some more information. So I would also encourage you to stay informed and up to date. Science changes very fast, but we do have a lot of information on our website. So if you're interested in listening to our webinars, they happen on the third Thursday of every month, and the old ones are archived. So if there are particular topics that are of interest to you, you can probably find a webinar about them. At some point over the last several years, you'll hear me on a few of them. I've also done some of our podcasts, so for all of these we have usually somebody from the Fox Foundation representing the research side, we have somebody from our patient community representing the patient voice, and we often have a movement disorder specialist, a neurologist, or an external scientific researcher from around the world who's weighing in on a particular topic that they're an expert in. So these are great resources. We also have our Ask the MD program, where we have our resident doctor answering questions that come in live through our Facebook page, and also diving into particular topics that are of interest. And again, all this is on our webpage, and the old ones are archived, so you can search for genetics in Parkinson's, or pesticides in Parkinson's, or biomarkers in Parkinson's, and you'll find 5 of them, I'm sure. So I think I'll stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions on the panel, and I thank you so much for coming, and thanks for your attention.
To join us up here, if they would. We have Dr. Ricky Rosella. He is part of Dr. Gary Allweiss's neurology practice here. He did his undergraduate work at Princeton and went to Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, trained at NYU, is board certified in neurology. And in the center we have Dr. Harvey Gross. Dr. Gross is the medical director of the Jewish Home Family and has been so since the opening of our facility in Rockley in 2001. A fellow of the American Academy of Family Physicians, Dr. Gross is board certified in family medicine and certified in geriatrics. He is certified by the American Medical Directors Association as a medical director for nursing homes and has been chief of the Department of Family Practice at Englewood Hospital and Medical Center for many years. So we're happy to open the conversation up to our panelists, and I know we have a couple of folks with microphones roaming around. And I thought maybe I would ask each of you to respond to this question first as people get warmed up. And that is a question that was asked of me earlier, which someone comes to you newly diagnosed with Parkinson's. What's the first thing you tell them to do? Where do they start?
First, I'll begin with that. The first thing I ask is to sort of tell their story. As of any medical doctor, take history, so we find out what exactly have you noticed that makes you think you may have Parkinson's. And then it's not just really the symptoms that people think about too, like tremor or those motor type symptoms, but there are other things too that I look for that are non-motor. That's what we sort of emphasize in training, because you think about the tremor, but then there's other things, sleeping, memory, and even constipation could be a sign of Parkinson's if you have all the other features of it. So that's the one thing that's very important, is the history of, why are you coming to it? Why would you think you have Parkinson's? Thank God, in my experience, most people who come to me with tremor, they usually don't have Parkinson's, thank God. So, if you're out there and you're sort of worried, do I have Parkinson's? And if it's just tremor, you probably don't. But there are other things that I will ask for, and that's the first thing, that I look for other symptoms that you may not really recognize.
Thank you.
Well, since it's a clinical diagnosis, as you said, you'd want to be sure of the diagnosis. And we know it has many presentations, as we saw today. Myself, I'm probably the first person to see these people because they come to their own family physician first. And again, I'd want to know more about the history, do a physical examination, and of course be certain that it is the correct diagnosis, because treatment will depend upon the correct diagnosis. And again, at that point, I probably, of course, would refer to the neurologist for confirmation before we start embarking upon a treatment.
I'm not a clinician, but I do interact a fair bit with patients through events like these, and I think one of the first things that I always say to families is to find your support network, to find your community resources, and to arm yourself with the knowledge that you're going to need to help navigate the path that you're on, and to remain hopeful and positive as much as you possibly can, because really exciting things are happening, I think, and just trying to maintain that sense of hope and community, and having that support network around you, I think, are the most important things that I like to think about at the beginning.
Thank you, that's great. Do we have a question from the floor? Yeah.
I honestly don't know whether I have Parkinson's disease or essential familial tremors. I was wondering if any research has been done. By the way, I love coffee with caffeine. Will that make it more likely that I will be bringing on Parkinson's disease, or more severely so?
Caffeine has actually been shown to be neuroprotective, so I don't know exactly how it affects people with Parkinson's symptoms today, but historically, in large-scale studies, people that are drinking a lot of caffeine are less likely to have Parkinson's disease.
We'll shake a lot more.
That is true. I will say also that a lot of the efforts that the Fox Foundation is currently undertaking is to try and understand the difference between Parkinson's disease and essential tremor, because there are some symptoms that are overlapping. There are some things that make them different, and I think as we try to classify these diseases, it's really important to work together with the different organizations and the different scientists that are looking at each of them, so that we're not all just looking at one thing, we're all looking across the board at some of the things that are similar.
Yeah, so going back to your question, it probably is more, if it's just a tremor, it probably is the benign essential tremor. We see it all the time. I just had said that just a couple minutes ago, right? That luckily, if you just have tremor and no other symptoms, it's probably just tremor. And there's still some debate. That's where you come see me in the office. Believe it or not, after all this technology and fancy tests, so Samantha had put up the Cinemet, the carbidopa-levodopa is the one medicine that you could easily use in somebody with Parkinson's, and if you respond, it's like, hey, my tremor's better, I'm walking better, my movements are faster. That actually makes a diagnosis. So even though we have all these fancy tests, PET scans, MRIs, actually that's a simple way to sort of differentiate. And that if you came to see me in the office, that would be one of the things I would do to see and put that issue to rest.
I think I also want to emphasize that when people come in and they have a tremor, they're very much afraid that they do have Parkinson's. And one of the things I hope we've learned today is that there's so much more today available to any of these patients that are helpful, constructive. We've seen a lot of good research going on. So I try to be very hopeful and optimistic about what they can do, because in fact there is a lot we can do today that we couldn't do many years ago.
how is it determined if a Parkinson patient does have one of the, what do you call it?
The genes?
The gene, yeah, mutations.
So there are ways that you can get genetic testing, and if you're interested in that, you can look on the website for the Parkinson's Progression Marker Initiative site that I mentioned. 23andMe is an example of a company that will do genetic testing, or you can go through your doctor, but there are pros and cons to each of those scenarios, and genetic testing is not right for everybody, so I would urge you, if it's something you're considering, to really think about it and talk about it with your family and your doctor before you make any decisions, but there are simple tests that can tell you whether or not you have a genetic mutation, or at least the most common genetic mutations that we can test for.
In the last 6 to 8 years or so, it seems to me I've noticed that the pathway of treatment for Parkinson's has been agonists, amantadine, selegiline, acid, things like that, and then waiting to do L-DOPA and levodopa. Now it seems like levodopa seems to be more of an initial treatment, and I'm just wondering what you think the cause of that has been. That it seems that it's been reversed as far as L-DOPA being last, now it's first. At least in my observation.
So the use of carbidopa levodopa, it actually worked great initially, but unfortunately, as it was being used in people who had Parkinson's now 5, 10, 15 years, you find that the carbidopa levodopa loses its efficacy. It doesn't work as well, and also your side effects, even at the same dose or even lesser doses, you get more side effects compared to when you only had Parkinson's for only 1 or 2 years. So there was a thought where you should delay using carbidopa levodopa as much as possible until the very last moment, so you avoid losing its efficacy. However, then now, if you were diagnosed maybe with Parkinson's at 60 years old, oh, you didn't use Sinemet for another 20 years, now you're 80, okay, let's use Sinemet now. You lost 20 years of quality life that you could have used a great drug. So I think that there's a shift between delaying now that phenomenon of carbidopa levodopa losing its efficacy now to like, well, what are you waiting for, right? So you do want to have that balance of making sure the medicine is as efficacious as possible and good to you, but don't wait to the last minute where, now you don't even get the benefit because now you just, Father Time has caught up with you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have 2 questions. Last year when I was here, one of the speakers spoke about a connection between the gut, and you did mention that. So I was wondering whether there's any update on that, gut issues or conditions and Parkinson's. And the other question has to do with early signs prior to tremor of motor problems. For instance, my mother has Parkinson's and her handwriting now is almost illegible, but it's gotten worse over the years. It wasn't so bad a few years ago. And my handwriting started to get bad. So I'm wondering whether there's any connection, anything earlier than the tremors that you can see that's related to motor problems.
I can update on the gut studies. There have been several studies that have indicated that the flora and fauna in the digestive tract may be different in people with Parkinson's disease and people without the disease. And there are different biomarker studies underway to see if we can identify which particular bacteria are different in the gut for people with Parkinson's disease. Likewise, there's also the drug treatment, for example, that I mentioned that's actually providing a cocktail of bacteria to Parkinson's patients to help alleviate some of the issues that they have there. So I don't think we have any definitive studies, but it's an exciting new area of research. It's something that people haven't really studied as much as some areas that are easier to get to, like blood and spinal fluid. So I think those studies are still ongoing and there's clinical trials. I'm going to let the clinicians answer the handwriting question, but I will say that we have funded studies with handwriting in people with Parkinson's and people without, and we didn't find any differences in the studies that we funded indicating that poor handwriting is a biomarker or something that can predict Parkinson's. But I don't know if you guys know more about that.
So I had sort of mentioned the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's. Constipation actually is by far the most well-known first sign of Parkinson's disease. Sort of weird, Anybody that's constipated, though, it doesn't mean you have Parkinson's, but there's a high association. We get a lot of new patients like, oh, I'm constipated, do I have Parkinson's? So yes, and they've actually found that the alpha-synuclein that accumulates in the brain is actually found in the nerves of the gut, and even years before you may develop the motor symptoms of Parkinson's. So in fact, people who have a family history of somebody with Parkinson's, they actually biopsy their gut, and the nerves in the gut actually had alpha-synuclein, and those are probably in current trials now, and you're going to see if they develop Parkinson's. But constipation is one of the first symptoms of Parkinson's. And in fact, there's other non-motor symptoms too. Sleeping, like acting out your dreams, has actually been shown to also be a sign years before you manifest motor symptoms of Parkinson's. So, it's hard to sort of use that information because there's a lot of people who are constipated, present company included, right? I don't think I have a family history of Parkinson's, so it's hard to use these symptoms to say if you're going to have Parkinson's or not, but it is sort of been found and well documented.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
A year or so ago, there was a buzz about a new, relatively new anti-cancer medicine called nilotinib. Relatively non-toxic phase 1 studies at Georgetown University showed both preclinical testing that it had a favorable effect on alpha-synuclein. And I was just wondering if those studies were ongoing, because it looked like it really actually had some promise.
Yeah, I can take that one. So the question is about a cancer drug called nilotinib that was a big buzz last year. There was a group out of Georgetown that had published that you could repurpose this cancer drug and it would have beneficial effects for people with Parkinson's disease based on some preclinical data and the fact that the pathways were similar between this particular cancer pathway and Parkinson's. The unfortunate part of that study was that there wasn't a good control group. So while the results were exciting, they're not necessarily scientifically valid. And unfortunately, a lot of patients then went to their doctors, and a lot of doctors started prescribing nilotinib, which is unsafe if it hasn't been tested rigorously tested in people with Parkinson's disease. So we're currently funding a replication study where we do have an adequate case control group. So we hope to be able to answer that question, and it would be super exciting if it is in fact efficacious, but with the current data and all the hype around it, that study was not well founded, and we just don't feel comfortable with the data that they presented because of the control group that was not adequate. So we will have the answer to that, and that is something that we are actively funding, but it's not something that we would recommend. I don't know if you agree.
We're going to take 2 last questions. Yes, sir.
Among those who have a genetic marker and have Parkinson's, like ALERT2 and have Parkinson's, what is the likelihood of inheritance of passing it on genetically? What's the best current understanding of that? Is my question.
So depending on the genes, so I think Samantha had put the sort of prevalence of the genes up there. So none of those genes, though, if you have it, are guaranteed to give you Parkinson's because of that sort of multifactorial thing that goes on. So that's why genetic testing is sort of questionable. Like, if you have already Parkinson's, you can't say to your children, oh, I have this gene, you're going to get Parkinson's. It doesn't work with it. There's so many different factors, environmental, and whether you live a healthy lifestyle too. So there's really, all you could say is you're at increased risk. Even though the genes that Samantha had put up there that are at high prevalence in people with Parkinson's, there's a whole host of people who could have a combination of those genes, and oh my God, they're guaranteed to get Parkinson's. But no, if they exercise and run marathons and don't, the smoking thing actually is sort of the opposite of what you think, but lead a healthy lifestyle and exercise all day, they can modify your environment so you don't get it. There's an interplay between your genes and whether you eat at McDonald's all day versus, you may have the genes, but if you exercise, you may actually beat your genetics because it's not a solely genetic disease.
I just want to say one thing further about the exercise. that the Rock Steady program we have at Rockley, I've seen incredible results from that. And I've seen patients from the community and from the facility who've gone and participated and done very nicely. And I think everybody here should be doing some exercise anyway, but that's an excellent program for patients with Parkinson's disease.
That was an unsolicited commercial, but thank you. Last question.
Hi. You may have heard of the Cleveland study where they looked at forced exercise and differentiated it from kind of general exercise that people get at a gym, and that there was some evidence that there was some neuroprotective components to it. I wanted to know if you're aware of any other studies that were similar, and if so, what might be the mechanism?
So actually for every study that shows that one exercise program is better than the other in Parkinson's, there's another one that's like, no, this exercise program is better. The general feeling is just exercise. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be a marathon. You don't have to do bench pressing for it. It just has to be something. So I would say if you, whatever gets you to actually exercise is the answer. And mostly these studies, the sort of common theme is like the ones who did better are the ones who actually were most compliant with exercise. And that seemed to be the regimen. People who do exercise that actually enjoy it, you're going to actually do it, or have like a spouse or friend that you exercise with. That's probably the most important thing to keep you exercising. Back to Dr. Gross's point here, exercise, not just for general health, is good, but in Parkinson's, it is absolutely essential. It is more powerful and better than any sort of drug we can give you or any technology. And actually, it's the only thing that has shown evidence where it actually modifies the disease. Samantha had been like, oh, there's no disease-modifying therapy. Actually, exercise is the disease-modifying therapy. I think they've even had twins who've had Parkinson's, and the one twin who ate at McDonald's all day did not do as good as the other twin who didn't go to McDonald's but exercised. Like it's absolutely been shown, and that was like its own control, right? So exercise, exercise, exercise.